Welcome to today's episode where we dive deep into the fascinating and complex world of stingrays. These flat-bodied creatures have been swimming through our oceans for millions of years, often overlooked but equally as intriguing as their more famous relatives, the sharks. In this episode, we'll explore the biology, behavior, and unique adaptations that make stingrays such a compelling species to study. First, let's start with the basics, the biology of stingrays. Stingrays belong to the class of cartilaginous fish, meaning they don't have bones like we do. Instead, their skeletons are made entirely of cartilage, the same flexible material in our ears and noses. This gives them incredible agility in the water, allowing them to glide effortlessly through the ocean, often described as flying beneath the waves. Their flattened bodies are another adaptation that makes them unique. Most stingrays have broad, wing-like pectoral fins that extend from their head to the base of their tail. These fins are what give them their characteristic shape and the ability to move gracefully. Unlike most fish, they don't use their tails for primary movement. Instead, they rely on these large fins to propel themselves in a way that almost looks like underwater flying. But there's more complexity here. Many species of stingrays have long, whip-like tails. And that brings us to one of their most well-known traits, the venomous stinger. When we think of stingrays, one of the first things that comes to mind is their tail, and specifically, the venomous barb that can cause harm. But did you know that not all stingrays have venomous tails? In fact, out of more than 200 species of stingrays, only some carry this defensive feature. The stingray's venomous tail, often called a spine or barb, is primarily used for defense, not for hunting. The barb is serrated, and it's coated in venomous mucus that can inflict a painful wound. It's important to note that stingrays are generally non-aggressive creatures. Most injuries from stingrays occur when they are stepped on or feel threatened. In the wild, stingrays prefer to avoid conflict, blending into the sandy ocean floor where they are well camouflaged. Their camouflage is actually quite sophisticated. Many stingrays are capable of changing their color slightly to match their surroundings. This not only protects them from predators, but also allows them to ambush prey. Stingrays are bottom dwellers, so their flattened bodies and cryptic coloration help them remain unnoticed until it's time to strike. Now let's dive into the way stingrays interact with their environment, particularly how they sense and hunt prey. Stingrays have a highly developed sensory system called the ampullae of Lorenzini. This is the same system that sharks use to detect electrical fields generated by other animals. Imagine this. You're swimming in complete darkness on the ocean floor. How do you find your next meal? For stingrays, the ampullae of Lorenzini is the answer. It allows them to detect even the slightest electrical impulses from the muscles of potential prey hiding in the sand. This sensory ability is so refined that stingrays can locate hidden prey like clams, crabs, or small fish, even if they can't see them. Once a stingray detects prey, it uses its unique mouth structure to feed. Stingrays have a specialized jaw that allows them to crush hard shells, which is particularly useful for their diet of mollusks and crustaceans. Their mouths are located on the underside of their bodies, so they often glide over the ocean floor, sucking up food as they go. Let's move on to another fascinating aspect of stingray biology, reproduction. Stingrays are ovoviviparous, meaning that the females carry eggs inside their bodies, but instead of laying those eggs, they give birth to live young. This gives the offspring a better chance of survival, as they are not as vulnerable as eggs left in the open ocean. What's even more fascinating is that some stingray species can delay implantation of the fertilized egg. This means that the female can hold on to the fertilized egg and only begin the pregnancy when conditions are favorable for her to support the offspring. This kind of reproductive strategy is quite rare in the animal kingdom and adds another layer of complexity to the life of stingrays. As for social behavior, stingrays are generally solitary creatures, but some species are known to form groups, especially during migration or breeding seasons. These groups are called fevers of stingrays. The reasons behind this social behavior are still being studied, but it could be a strategy to increase mating success or to provide protection against predators. Despite their fascinating adaptations, stingrays are facing significant threats in today's world. One of the biggest challenges for stingrays is habitat loss, particularly in coastal areas where they are often found. Mangroves, coral reefs, and seagrass beds provide crucial habitats for many species of stingrays. But these environments are under threat from human activities such as coastal development, pollution, and climate change. In addition to habitat destruction, stingrays are also at risk from overfishing. Some species are targeted for their meat or their barbs, while others are caught as bycatch in commercial fishing operations. Unfortunately, the slow reproductive rate of stingrays makes it difficult for their populations to recover quickly from overfishing. On a brighter note, there are conservation efforts in place to protect these remarkable creatures. Marine protected areas, fishing regulations, and research into sustainable fishing practices are helping to ensure that stingrays continue to glide gracefully through our oceans for generations to come. So, the next time you hear about stingrays, remember that these creatures are more than just flat bottom-dwelling fish. They are complex, adaptive, and resilient animals that have evolved some truly remarkable strategies to survive in the ever-changing oceans. From their venomous tails to their extraordinary sensory systems, stingrays deserve more appreciation for the role they play in marine ecosystems. Thanks for joining me today as we explored the complexity of stingrays. I hope you leave with a newfound respect for these fascinating creatures, and remember, there's always more to discover beneath the surface of the sea. If you learned something in this video, please hit that like button, and if you could go as far as to hit that subscribe button, it would help this channel immensely. That's all for today's episode. If you enjoyed learning about stingrays and their complexity, don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with fellow ocean enthusiasts. Until next time, keep exploring the wonders of the deep.